Welcome back to Sunday Night in America. In 2016, the FBI went to great lengths to investigate a presidential candidate over razor-thin allegations of collusion with a foreign government. That investigation dominated the headlines for years, sent the D.C. media into a manic frenzy, cast a cloud over a presidency, and exposed some employees of the FBI as partisan hacks. Now, two GOP members of Congress are asking the FBI for information on then Vice President Joe Biden. Will we ever have another presidential cycle without the FBI being involved? Meanwhile, federal prosecutors have turned a routine gun investigation into a years-long odyssey. Will there ever be a resolution on Hunter Biden? Joining us now is South Carolina Congresswoman Nancy Mace. Welcome to you, Congresswoman. I want to play a clip for you up front, and then that will kind of frame our conversation, if that's okay with you.
Yes, sir. It's great, Trey. Thank you. Thank you for having me on tonight.
You know, Congresswoman, those are all different things. Done nothing wrong and proud are two entirely different things. This is not a typically subjective parent talking about their child. This is the head of the executive branch commenting on an ongoing investigation. I was stunned that there wasn't any follow-up. I mean, imagine if a Republican president commented on an ongoing criminal investigation, and that's what he just did.
Right, imagine if that president were Republican, right? When Watergate happened, it was the press that was doing all the investigation. But I will tell you, with Jamie Comer at the helm of the Oversight Committee, if the Department of Justice and the FBI will not do their job, we will do their job for them. Because if you're willing to sell your country for cash, you should not be president. And then ultimately, at the end of the day, what our investigation is looking into is that very fact. And we're going to have a press conference on Wednesday morning at 9 a.m. to reveal more evidence that we found from suspicious activity reports and bank records. And meanwhile, of course, we have the subpoena that you mentioned earlier in the show. There's also a deadline on Wednesday for that document that we're looking for from the FBI. But this is very troubling because for years now, as you said, Trey, the left, says that no one is above the law. Well, put your money where your mouth is, and let's see where this investigation goes.
All right, Congresswoman, politics is partly about expectations. What's a realistic expectation? I mean, you can't indict, you can't prosecute, and you don't have the Senate or the executive branch. What's a realistic expectation for what the Oversight Committee can do?
Well, if the evidence leads us there, then a referral to the Department of Justice would be the right next step, because this won't end if somebody has broken the law and their last name is Biden. This doesn't end until justice is served.
All right, Republicans control the appropriations process. You mentioned subpoenas and deadlines. It is hard to get people's attention in D.C. unless you use money to do it. Do you think House appropriators are willing to assist your committee in making sure you gain access to all the information you need to do your job?
I hope that every single Republican and maybe a few Democrats will do the work necessary to hold those who've broken the law accountable, particularly if they're in the highest office of the land. If a former president can be investigated, so too can a current president be investigated. And we want to make sure that we follow the facts, that we're not making up anything, that we follow the facts. And I'll tell you, the first time, Trey, that I read those suspicious activity reports, and there were many, just for two Biden members, there were over 170, I was called and labeled a conspiracy theorist. As you know, I like to call the balls and strikes against both sides of the aisle, and I've done that through this investigation as well, and we'll continue to do that. We'll go wherever the evidence leads us.
You know, Congresswoman, we're going to end on a sour note, which is the D.C. media. Of all the headwinds that I faced when I was there, it actually wasn't the Democrats. It was the D.C. media. You started off by pointing out the media used to investigate both sides. Do you sense the D.C. media is at all curious about whether or not Hunter Biden will be charged or whether or not Vice President Biden did anything wrong? I mean, any curiosity at all?
It sure doesn't feel like it. And when the Democrats, led by Blinken and others, led conspiracy theories against the former president, against Republicans, they took it hook, line, and sinker. And yet we're out here trying to follow the facts and do this investigation. We would love some help from the mainstream media to prove what is going on here and what's not. It's in black and white in the documents.
Yeah, you know, President Obama prejudged two investigations. Joe Biden just prejudged an investigation involving his own son. I swear it would be very different if a Republican did it. But we will end on a happy note. Congresswoman from the great state of South Carolina, Nancy Mace, thank you for joining us on the Sunday night.
Thank you, Trey.